So here we are in my kitchen, rigged up as an art studio, and I'm going to do a still life of objects that mean something to me. So I've got here an Irish drinking cup inherited from a grandfather, my granny's green bottle and my father's blue pot. So I'm going to, I've already done a drawing, so this was done in graphite, and what I'm going to do is actually transfer it to my painting surface, which is here. This is, just should show you, and it's very good, very nice. This is lovely stuff from Lawrence's, Frederick's lovely prime canvas. So this is what I use as my default now. It takes up less room in the studio than the stretch canvases. So what I've done with this drawing, and it's always good to do a drawing for tonal values and also getting the composition right. I've gone over on the back with graphite, and I'm just going to press through. I can actually position it in my frame, which is nice, so you can let the objects breathe. And then I'm just going to go over it with a biro, and I'm going to just sketch out my design. I'm just going to press with a biro. It's like doing maps in geography of the setup. And there we go. Up here, around the corner. It's quite useful using a biro because then you know where you've been. So I'm just going to go and pressing out the design. This means the drawing you've done, the time is not wasted. Maybe I'll put those in, who knows. And then I've got my glass bottle up here, which is actually a little bit taller than that. And obviously you can correct, but the main thing is you've got your compositional design all done. And I've spent a lot of time scribbling and drawing through the ellipses and stuff just to get them right. I've got the handles here. Maybe put the light in, and then I've got this thing here, which really was quite tricky to draw. But as I say, it's always good to do a drawing first before you do a painting, because you can solve your problems then, and when it comes to painting, they don't seem so bad. So let's put these in, because they're quite important, and it's going to be a help if they can peek through. Because what I'm going to do now, and I will speed this process up, is actually just go over my design. When you see it, it will be quite faint. With black acrylic. I'm using black acrylic because it dries quickly, and then I can paint oils on top. So let's go here, this one there. See how that goes. So there you are. You've got quite a faint outline of my composition. So here I've got a little round brush. Sorry, you're getting a lot of shadow. A little round brush. Some black acrylics here. I'm just going to water it down a bit, and I'm just going to paint here quite a chunky black outline, which I tend to like in still lifes actually. So just so I can see the original design. Okay, so now we're going to get on with the oil painting. So this is an acrylic outline. I think if I was doing this for myself, I probably would have painted that in oils, but it's just acrylics dry quicker, and you can paint oils over acrylics. And then I've got my kit ready. So this is a bit of recycled Bob Ross, which is equivalent to turpentine. It's absolutely great. It's not too expensive, and it doesn't smell. There don't seem to be any fumes from it, but I think it is still flammable. And then bamboozled my family to get myself another set of oil paints. So this is Winsor & Newton oil paints. So get a set like that. This is artist quality, so they are a bit more expensive, but they are better. And then the other ingredient I always use is something called Ligwin, which is this Winsor & Newton Ligwin. It's a painting medium, and this is the one I prefer. I've tried all the rest, and this is the best. I should work for Winsor & Newton, really. It helps you water down, well, not water down, but make more usable paints that are old and stiff, but it also works brilliantly as the glazing medium, as you could see from my video of glazing in oil. So I'm not going to do this as a glaze. I'm going to try and paint it a la primer. Whether or not that's going to work, I don't know. So I've got my palette of colours that I think I'll need for this. So I've got a blue here. This is Phthalo blue, Winsor blue I think, and this is Winsor green. Ooh, look, and these have been hanging around a bit, so the oil's separated from the paint. That's yellow ochre, which I'm sure will be useful for the silver. That's raw sienna, which is pretty similar. It's like yellow ochre, but much more transparent, which is a useful thing. This is burnt umber, and this is black, and that is white. So I'm going to crack on and see if I can do it with that limited palette. I threw a bit of yellow in there because I might need to buck up my green a bit. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to create a wash using my Bob Ross stuff, just to put on a wash behind the objects. And the idea of, oh dear, ooh, that is not something, oh god, I bet that's methylated spirits. Sorry, I've got my jars mixed up. So that didn't work, so let's not do that. Let's just use Ligwin. Right. Okay, so I'm going to use Ligwin. I've got a bit of burnt umber on here, and perhaps a little bit of black and a little bit of white. I want to put the table in. See, I can see the objects. I like to work from the objects themselves rather than from a photograph. So I've got a kind of wash here. That's a bit on the brown side. Yeah, that's a bit on the black side. So I just want to have some sort of background here. And actually I think I am going to have to go off and get me Bob Ross. It's upstairs in my studio, but I just want to put that in. So there'll be a slight pause here while I go and get my Bob Ross. At that pause, but I went off and got my Bob Ross. Here he is, the man himself. Very good value. This is about £10 for half a litre, so good stuff. Okay, was that a litre? It's nearly a litre. So I just want to show you, figuring out that I was using methylated spirits because it didn't react to the paint. So I'm just making a sort of, well, not a wash, but I suppose something or other, with primarily using the thinners. And the reason why you do that is because it dries quicker. So I do want to have, I can always do another coat on the background, but I want to have a contrast with the white, because the white is very blinding. I'm just going over here quite quickly, and because the turpentine equivalent will dry quicker, it dries in about half an hour. It's the traditional way of underpainting in oil paints, because you can do your sketch more or less with, that's all wrong, using the thinners, because that dries quickly. With an oil paint, they will often stay active for quite a long time. And I'm not worrying about my outlines because it's just a guide, really. So, as I say, I want this not to be bright white. I would like it to be a bit blue, but I'm sure that's not going to work. Oh, I don't know. Whoa, there we go. I'll put a little bit of blue in there because behind that setup there's a window and I can see the blue light coming through. But again, I want it to be not bright white. Just so there's something there. And if you notice with artificial light, if you're doing a still life at home, the main thing to think about is getting good lighting on it. So here I've got a little angle poise above it. We'll have the objects by a window, and just to have good light on your objects, not flat light. You want some directional light. And there we go. And this is quite a quick way of painting, and that will be more or less dry by the time I get to paint my objects. And then I suppose I want something down here. So always a good idea to paint your background first, because then you can paint the objects on top. So I suppose I could look at the shadows. Which are there, in fact. So let's get some shadows in there. So I'm just adding a bit of blue to my black. Rather startling blue, this one. This is the Winsor & Newton one, which is very similar to Prussian blue, which is quite dark. That's where the methylated spirits reacted badly to my my paints. Oh, that's very blue. Just throw some brown at that and that will dissipate it. So I just want to put a kind of wash on for my shadows. And you can see they drip happily. I think it's probably gone out of fashion, but in fact, for a long time, about 5 years until quite recently, dripping was the thing. Every time you went to an art show at a college or something, everybody had all these very drippy oil paints, and that's just created by using turpentine rather than thick oil paints. So that's sort of like that. That's kind of in shadow. Don't worry about that. And then I'm just going to have a little bit of yellow ochre and white. So I don't want bright white, I want a kind of warm white, and yellow ochre and white often do that best. So just here, that's a bit on the yellowy side, so I'm just going to add a little bit more white to that. But that's mainly diluted with Bob Ross turpentine thing, because it's an artificial light by these objects. It's got a yellowness to them. And over here too. And just a bit more. Get rid of that bright white, even though it does seem quite bright. But it really is quite yellow. And maybe a little bit over here. Just pin that down a bit. And pop a bit in there. Because within that shadow there is silver is reflecting black onto the tablecloth, and here not so much, just a little bit just there. Okay, so that should dry quite quickly, and I'm just using my turpentine just to clean my brush. I like these long flats because you can paint things quite quickly, but you can also get a fine line. Okay, so let's go for it. So I'm going to paint the silver drag first. And that's going to be a combination of, I think, yellow, ochre and white. And in this case, I'm going to use Ligwin to just thin this down. This is a little bit stiff, this paint, so just to get it moving better, I'm using Ligwin. I'll pick up some white. Whoa, God, that yellow ochre is a funny colour. Just to warn you, most paints are made in France. Well, Winsor & Newton's made in France, and I think Dale and Roney, I think they're still in England. If you want to know the gossip, talk to Mr. Lawrence, he knows everything. And I know they've been busy stockpiling for Brexit. Okay, so I've got this kind of warm yellow ochre colour here, which I think I might need some tones. Let's try the raw sienna in there. And maybe a little bit of black and brown. So I've got various tones that will probably do for my silver going on there. It's all happily dripping, as you can see. And I'm going to start slapping paint on. And this is slightly thinned down with the Ligwin. I'm just having a look, and I think I want a little bit of white. So this is going to be a very quick a la primer painting. And there's nothing like taking yourself away from the cares of the day, just sitting down and painting a little still life. So I'm putting on kind of a base coat, I think, and then I can add some interest to it in a second. So up here, I'm just mixing up some black and brown, and there's a kind of, it's where the silver cleaner never reaches. I'm just popping that in there. Having a look here, there's actually that big reflection down there. This is the shadow. And more or less, when I'm painting, I just wipe my brush with kitchen towel. I do recommend also baby wipes, but they're more for cleaning up emergencies, as we're not supposed to use baby wipes anymore. But it's very useful if you manage to get, I don't know, phthalo blue in your eyebrow, to use baby wipes. It's less damaging to the skin than turpentine would be. So I'm just going in here, and you can see this is the lovely thing about oil paints. They just move around, and they're just so much nicer than acrylics, but they move around while you're putting them on. So I've got this kind of warm colour here, which this is, I'm using burnt sienna there. I wonder if that's a reflection of me. No, that is something going on there. So I'm just going to pick up some of the slightly different colour, and down here, I'm being quite quick, being responsive to the objects you're trying to paint. So I'm just taking a little bit of burnt umber, put some interest in here, and this silver drinking cup is silver plated, and the plate's starting to wear off again. It's already been plated at least once in its life. And then I've got in here as well. So this is the interior of the silver object, and you can see, even though it's darker, there are some lighter passages in there as the light bounces around inside it. And then I think I need a bit more of that. So over here, so can you see the nice long flat strokes create a nice shape, I think, and I'm trying to go in the direction of the cup. And then I've got a slightly smaller brush here, so I'm going to add a little bit more detail. Yeah, that's a bit stiff. Up here. And again, just around the lip here. Bring it round. And a good rule of thumb with oils is always paint dark to light. I just want a bit of dark here, and it's quite a good idea to have a brush for light and a brush for dark. That would work. Okay, so I'm trying to respond to the objects quite quickly. And then I suppose I ought to tidy up over there. And in fact, this is defined by the lighter background, which I have made darker, and it isn't. And I haven't cleaned this cup for a while. And over here, there's a little light streak there. But within here, there's the reflection of the blue object. And when you're painting silver and glass and even water, you find that all you can do is paint what you see. So she helpfully, I think I need a bit more something going on up here. I thought I wouldn't need to use that red. There's a kind of pinkiness over there. And this is my silver object, and that is blue is a bit too strong, so I'm just adding something else in there. I'm not going to do too much to that because that way madness lies, but I just want to have the idea of that blue object being reflected in that jug. Ooh, it goes all the way up. So it goes up here. And that needs to be darker. So this is a demonstration of why you should paint dark to light, because I've got pure dark colour on my brush, this colour here, and it's mixing in with the white that's already there, so it's hard to get it to be the colour you want, because the white paint is always interfering with things you're trying to do. I might keep that as being a blue brush. I will get another brush, maybe that one, and try and do a little bit more detail within my cup. So there's a darkness here, so I'm just going to squish around and see where it goes, and also that darkness over here. Yeah, maybe a bit of blue, you never know. Yeah, a bit of blue, that seems to be working. And then over here too. Just getting the idea, so keeping the brush strokes going the way the object's going. Maybe a bit over here. And some squiggly bits here. And then I want to start wrestling with the bottom bit of this. So I'm picking up my original silver colour. And actually there's a band here of lightness. In fact, having said put the dark in first, perhaps I should put the dark in first. So I'm just taking some brown and some blue. Just coming along here, and that needs a little bit of liquid to help it flow better. Just along here, as the object changes orientation to the world, as it were, the reflections are different. So along here too. Yeah, that's a bit on the blue side. Get some more brown in there. Okay, let's make the darks in first. And while I've got this going on, what I might do is just come up here and catch the edge of that. And then that's got an edge. That has an edge. So I just want to catch the edge of that. And then here, catch the edge of that. And again, it's just not flowing quite right, so I'm just adding a bit of Liguin to that. And the advantage of Liguin is it helps your oil paints dry within 24 hours. Just brown, throw a bit of blue in there. Okay, I think I need something going on here because it's disappearing into the background. Eek. And that just needs to be there. So back to a medium-sized brush. Maybe I will use this one. Cleaning it off because this blue is very staining. Oh yes, that's really staining. That's not what I want at all. So let's have yellow, ochre and white again. There. Oops, sorry. Camera's there. So I'm just going to go over these with the yellow, ochre and white, the kind of colour of dirty silver. And then hopefully I can add some gleams to it later. A bit of grey in there. There we go. And then this is doing that. A bit of Liguin because it's not flowing right. Doing that, and then I'm going to pick up some nice white to make a better, lighter yellow ochre version of it. Kind of goes down like this, and then also here there's a little gleam there, and then here this is reflecting the tablecloth down here, there, and then I think I need some more neutral colours as it sort of turns the corner. So this is a reflection of my kitchen. And I'm going to go in and add gleams, I think, and look at the shapes a bit more. So over here, and a bit more Liguin. Ooh, do I need the blue? I probably need the blue. So actually the blue pot is being reflected here and here. But now that blue is a terrible bully, so I'm just cleaning my brush with the terps. I'm going to pick up some nice lighter version of yellow, ochre and white, and look at that shape there. And that's the, oh, see, touch of that blue and you're doomed. Maybe if I have a smaller brush with my nice white, get those gleams in, like here. So that is kind of fading into this. an ideal world, if you did this over a couple of weeks, or a couple of sessions rather, I wouldn't spend longer on it than that. So I just want something going on here, and then here, and then just here, look. That needs to be made darker in the fullness of time. So, actually the fullness of time might have come now, so let's have a look. So I want to get some dark passages in there, so there's kind of one there, there's kind of one here, and something going on here. I think it's reflecting the bottle, and then I want this as well to, I have a suspicion my bottom of my thing was a bit wonky, so let's have a bit of yellow ochre on there. It's still a bit wonky. Let's bring it down a bit. Okay. Okay, and a thing that's really annoying me, which I am going to try and rectify now, is when I slap the background on. I didn't really look at the objects, but in fact, up here it's quite white. So I want to lighten that. So I'm going to maybe have to wait for it to dry a bit, but I want to get the idea of the lightness behind describing the jug. I mean the Irish drinking cup. There we are, that's coming out of it a little bit. And here I can kind of fluff the background to make it seem a bit smoother. So I still need some white. Go down here directly. I'm really just picking it up on my brush and plonking it on. There we are, that's coming out of the woods as it were. And I probably need to straighten that up a bit. Oops, and see that blue, once that blue gets somewhere, it just won't go away. Let's have a little bit more yellow on here. There we go, get that to go away. And then I want to look at my gleams, so I'm just picking up white there, and I want to put my gleams on. Ooh, there's a gleam, and there's a gleam, and here's a gleam, and here's a gleam reflecting the big light I've got on. So I'm just picking up pure white and slapping it on, and there's another gleam just here, and there's a lightness here, but it's going to be superseded by that blue. That will not go away. I'm going to pick up a little bit of dark to define that shape there, and that shape there, and maybe that shape there. Okay, so I am really cracking on with this, but if you do it yourself, you can take at least a couple of hours. I'm really cracking on with this, so I just want to catch that light there. So I've got pure white on there just to get that roundness. And then here, there's all sorts of weird things happening. So that's going there. Let's get that a little bit more silvery. Whatever you do when you paint silver objects, don't use silver paint. Silver is defined by the light that is reflected in it. So again, I'm just trying to catch a few little light highlights to make it seem shiny. And maybe try and tidy that up a bit. And maybe that. So with oils, there's lots of lovely manipulation, but painting quick is often good. And to have to pace an oil painting as well is a good thing. So you could say, well, that's my first coat, I can come back next time within 24 hours if you use Legwin, and make sure that the paint is dry, so that when you put on paint, it's not mixing in with the paint on the canvas. So I think I'm going to paint the green jug now. So I've got this rather livid green. This is Windsor green, or otherwise known as phthalo green, but it's got quite a blue tinge to it. It's not quite the right colour for the glass jug, so I'm just going to mix in some raw sienna, which has had no effect at all, because that's rather transparent. So I'm going to use yellow ochre. Well, there we go. So a good rule of thumb, when you're faced with these rather peculiar greens that appear in with paints, they often give you this one because it's a good mixing green. So put it on there. Oh, that's very dark, isn't it? So let's add a little bit. Oh, I think it needs more green. So I'm just looking. I'm trying to make this bottle green. I can pick up a bit of white. Yeah, that's better. So within here, again using a nice big brush, I'm just going to go on and give it a base coat. I'm just going to put a bit of liquid in it, so just so the paint flows a little bit better. It comes down the centre. Whoa, that's a big brush. It comes around the edges, where I'm going to add some darker passages to it, but this is the base colour, I think. And that is a very big brush, so I'm just going to switch to a slightly smaller brush, make sure it's clean, and pick up that paint. About the right colour. Ooh, no, it's not. Add a bit more yellow ochre to it, I think. There we go. And around here too. So this is kind of the base coat I'm going to work into. And I'm going to pick up some of the darker paint here and start thinking about where I need to put it. So can you see, so it's mixing in with the paint already on there, and even though it might be a bit of an odd colour, I'm just going to add a bit of burnt umber to it to make it slightly less bluey green, and just come round here. So the darkest point of glass is when it's turning a corner. And that's I'm using too small a brush. Let's go back to this one to just get those paints to merge together, those colours to merge together. And over here, and perhaps I should have painted the green jug first. So in an ideal world, what you could do is paint the green jug first, and then come back and add, when it's dry, and then add the other objects in front of it. But we're kind of committed now, so let's go for it. So I'm just going to pull that down and picking up a dark green, because this is all very dark down here, and it's just reflecting things over here, and then it's got this big reflection. Ooh, this is going to be a mistake, of the blue jug. It's kind of very faint, but it is there. And then I'm just coming in here to put the darkness in there. And then you've got variations of green going on in that jug. There's kind of warm greens, cold greens and things that's reflecting, and also within the handles. This is quite dark just here. A bit more yellow ochre in my green, I think. And over here, and over there, and over here. Right, so now I need to lighten it because I can see light through that. So I've just thrown some white at my colour here, and I'm going to start really looking at what's going on here. Over here, there's something going over. Oh, that's reflecting the tablecloth, so that's lighter. That's lighter too. And then it's reflecting something or other. And then over here, that's very light. I think it's getting light from above, and it's also transparent. So let's add a bit of yellow ochre to that. Get that nice green over there with a bit of white. And then you can see the light within here, so I want to try and get that light going on there. I might actually want to, I've got my big old brush here. Oops. A lighter colour going on there, and it needs to be a warmer colour, so let's put some yellow ochre in it. Ooh, this is an actual yellow. all that stiff, so I'm adding some Liguin. And I just want to have, I think that's having an impact, so I need to make it lighter again. Put some light within the bottle. And up here too. And then, I just want to add the lights within there. And a few darks. I definitely need some more darks. I'm picking up the pure green, even though it's probably too much of a bluey green. But some areas here, and this is very dark, so let's pick up that pure green and just pop it on. Ooh, that's a bit thick. And then it's doing something here, and it's got this edge just here. And then over here as well, I suppose it's where the handle's been glued to the bottle. There's an extra thickness of glass just there. And then it's got this kind of dark top. Let's try the brown and the green and the black, which kind of goes sort of like that. And it's not flowing right, so I'm just adding a bit of Liguin. I just want that. Oops, that's got the green in there. And I think I definitely need some actual black just to get that tone right. And I know the black's going to mix in with the things already there. And then I need to catch the light, so I'm going to pick up some white, which is now green. Do I care? Yes, I suppose I do. Again, that green is very potent. It's like the blue. Once you've got it knocking around, it's very hard to get rid of. So I just want a little light there and there. And I suppose I could tidy up that area here. Tidy. In fact, this is not quite the same as my drawing, but never mind. And then I want some real dark areas within that. There's something weird going on there. It's kind of, I think this is reflecting the silver cup. And I'm just going to smooth it out with a bit of this. And maybe do a bit of fluffing, you never know, but on the other hand, its moments. Let's have a little bit more white knocking around within that colour, and I'm just going to put that on there. So with glass, when you're painting glass, you just got to look at what you're painting. Now within the glass and on the glass there are these gleams, so I'm just going to pick up probably, that's probably good, a nice brush with white on it already. And I'm just going to go in and add that gleam, which is actually greener than that, isn't it? So, that is really not what I wanted to do. I was picking it out from my tissue. Right, time for a clean tissue. Okay. Don't like that at all. Tell you what I can do. Eek. You could use a palette knife to scrape it off. So this is, that might work actually. It's more like Sgraffitio. There's a little gleam over here, and because I've used a white base, I can go back and scratch back to the white canvas. So in fact, I'm just picking up a good splodge of white to be that shiny bit there, and then there's a little light just here. That's reflecting my light, but you can see that this is why you need to have good thick white. And when you're painting white things, titanium white is the way to go, because that is the whitest of the whites. Zinc white is more the mixing white, but they're kind of interchangeable now, because I think most times they give you titanium. Oops, and there's a big old light just there, isn't there? So let's be brave. So we're just putting on where we can see the lights. And there's a little tiny, let's get that dark in. Sorry, that's the microphone. Let's get that dark in there. Just here, this is very dark. And that is very dark. And that is very dark. Let's split it on. And then, I don't think what else needs doing. I think I might call that done, apart from this little bit of white I want to plonk on. So I'm picking up pure white, and there's a little gleam just here. And a little one over here. And a little one here, maybe. Well, and I haven't really resolved that, have I? Let's try and resolve that. So you're getting this light being reflected inside the bottle. So you're getting that almost feeling of transparency. What I'm probably going to do is just do this really quickly, and then I will tidy up my bits later, because I would like to finish this and make it a decent painting. Right, okay, so now I've got all my brushes pretty much dirty. I'm going to go on and try and do this mad piece of pottery. So I'm using the blue. I've got this very strong blue. This is Winsor blue. I'm just going to pick up some dirty white and mix that in and see what happens. It's not quite it. That's a very bright blue. So if I mix some brown in there, that will probably get closer to the base colour I want. Oops. I don't know if you can see the colours. Right. Yeah, that's probably it, more or less. Yeah, it's a bit bluer than that, but they've only given me this blue. So I'll probably use that and not worry about it being too accurate. So with a big brush and a bit of liquid, I'm putting on a base coat into which I will work, and this is more or less the darkest version of the colour. No, I'm finding I'm running out, so I'm just putting a bit of burnt umber into my blue, and you can see it's kind of neutralised it, which has worked quite well, and I'm going to need a bit of liquid just to get it to flow better. Maybe it needs to be a bit bluer. Oh, there we go. So I'm getting a kind of lighter version of it there. Going down here, and that's dark. I might leave that, and that's dark, so let's have a bit more darkness going on. Ooh, yeah. I just want a little bit of darkness here and there. As I say, it's very hard to get the darks back once you've painted over them. I suppose this is a bit dark too, and again that needs a bit of liquid just to make it flow better. Right, and then going over here. I'm just going to add a bit of white to that to make it bluer. Over here, that's better. There we go. And I think those little dots are going to go. They're not showing through. And I think what this blue really needs is a bit of French ultramarine, but I don't have any on my person at the moment, so we're going to have to stick with this variation, I think, which is quite pleasing. It's kind of a muddy blue. And who's to know, apart from you lot who could see it. So I think I need a bit more dark going on in there. And a bit of more blue. So when you're painting an object with pattern, whether it's a kind of a painted pattern on pottery, or in this case a kind of incised pattern, I have now painted over the whole thing, you want to paint the form and the volume of the object first before you worry about the pattern. So if I call that my base coat, and then I can kind of work into that. I think I need a little bit more dark. Oops. Just here. Maybe a bit darker again. And ooh, look, it's got a little clay bottom. So now I've got my kind of base coat on there. What I can do is actually now start looking at how the light is falling on that object. So I'm just going to wipe my brush and hope to God this blue doesn't supersede everything, which I'm pretty sure it will. So there's something going on here. That brush is a bit big, so I'm just going to use a slightly smaller long flat and just have a bit of blue, a bit of white rather, and I can actually almost manipulate how the light is falling on this object. And then it's got this sort of reflection of the tablecloth happening here. You see, it's gone already, so I'm just picking up pure, well, not pure white, but the lighter colour, and as you put it on, it makes your brush dirty, and then you have to go and clean it, just wiping it there, and then up here, and then that's a big gleam. So in fact, just there, I need a darker colour just here. And then all sorts of weird things happening here. And then I'm going to pick up some white with my bigger brush, and I'm looking at where it's shining here. Just putting that on there, and over here, and actually it's all down here, so I'm just going to pick up some more white, relying with the blue on my brush. Means it's not so bright, so it's down here, and that's reflecting the tablecloth. Don't you see, nothing happened there, so I need to pick up some more white. Oh, they're homeschooling next door, all things. Right, and then there's a lighter area just there. Here we go, and that's there. So we're getting the idea of the nice shine on the object before we think about doing the detail. Okay, time to pick up a smaller brush. Let's think about a bit of detail here and there. Ooh, and there's something happening here. And here. Ooh, and a big gleam. Ooh, there's no white left on that. And then there's something happening here, in fact. So I've just got white on my brush, picking up what's happening. I'm really trying to look. There's a light area just here as it changes direction with a gleam there. This is why I like long flats. So sometimes you can get a really nice straight line by having it sort of horizontal to your painting surface, but you can also get nice structural strokes. Okay, so let's have a bit of dark in there. Don't worry about the gleam later. And dark in there. And then, ooh, that's really dark over here. So I'm now looking at the nuances of the reflections that's going on with those objects. And then over here, so that is really quite light. Because this, just here, it's reflecting bits of the tablecloth as it's changing direction. So I'm just putting that lightness in there, and then looking at that, so you can see I'm doing little structural strokes. Even though I want more or less in a straight line, you can do strokes like that. So that's nice and shiny. But how to do the pattern? And in an ideal world, I think what I would do is probably leave it for another day, but I'll give it a go. So I'm picking up some brown and black. And I just want to perhaps go in here. And again, I've got a long flat, but I'm using it on its side. I think we do need some brown because it's showing the terracotta underneath. And it goes round a corner. So I'm just going to put a little bit of dark within there. There we go, that's looking pretty good. And then we have the dots, and I think this is going to be a nightmare, but I'll do a few. Let's see what happens, because all the paint is wet. And in an ideal world, what you do, you leave it. Yeah, that's going to be impossible, even though. So I could try and do one. That's not bad. And as it comes around the corner, it's going to mix up with the colour there. But I will be here forever doing that with you. So all I did was actually pick up some black, and I know it's going to mix with the paint that's there, so I probably want another one just here probably. But while it's sort of fresh on my brush, it's holding, it can hold its own against the paint on the canvas, but now the paint on the canvas is interfering with my brush, and it's picking it up. So I'm just grabbing another little bit of black and trying to make it seem more three-dimensional, but that's going to take a long time, and you probably don't want to be here for that long. So that is painting a still life alla prima using oils, and oils are my preferred medium at the moment. I will try and finish this painting, perhaps post it to you, and then you can see how it works. I just realised I haven't done my gleams, so let's clean that brush, wipe that brush, and I'm going to pick up some pure white, and I've got a gleam here. Wipe my brush because it's probably got mucky, and then a gleam here, and a gleam here. So that, so those last few gleams will really bring an object to life. In fact, it's still a bit lighter over there, and that is doing something. That is doing something. Okay, so please keep painting and enjoy doing still lives. I didn't used to do them, but they've got a nice calming effect on one. So see you in the Zoom lessons in the next video.